Hello, Judy from Thistledew Creations here. It's the middle of the night and I couldn't sleep because I had a scratchy throat, so I came down and made myself a cup of tea. And I thought I would do my ATC video that I had been planning last night and never got around to doing. So I made up some kits for myself and did 4 sort of prototypes to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I set aside the materials to do them in front of you so you can see my process a bit. So we'll start with the first one that I did, which was this beige background. I'm just going to move those up. So this beige background one, I had these polyester leaves. I think I got these in a swap recently. I have a bunch of them somewhere else in my stash, but I did get these in a swap. So I thought I would do some autumn ATCs. I've already done some Halloween ones, but I thought I would release these ones first. So I've got the leaves cut in half so they'll fit onto the ATCs, and I like that look of a half of something on these because it just allows you to use a larger item but have it still fit. And I don't know if I explained this. I might have explained this in another video. I use Trivial Pursuit cards for my bases, for my artist trading cards. And if you don't know what that is, it's a game. Trivial Pursuit is a game, and it comes with 2 boxes of, I would say, several hundred of these cards with questions and answers of trivia in different categories. So the only problem, they're a nice weight of cardstock. I put paper on both sides of them and then they become quite sturdy. The only problem with them for artist trading cards is that they are not the exact size they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be 2.5, and they're 2 3/8 by 3.5, which is correct. So I need to add 1/8 of an inch to the width of my card to make it a tradable artist trading card. So the way that I've done that is added the lace to the side and let it stick out 1/8 of an inch. And I like the way that gives it a tactile component as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do with my card is I've got this one. These ones were the last 2 of this series of music paper background that I have. And this one had a red background which went well with the autumn theme. This one has like a charcoal gray. But the first thing that I did was I inked the edges first because it's a little hard to ink after you've glued on these things because you want to let them sit for a while. So I'll go ahead and ink the edges. I'm using the ground espresso so that you can really see it because this is already an off-white background. And I want it nicely shaded around the edges. I think on that one I might have done a little bit of vintage photo as well because it looks a little bit more yellowy, so I may do that too. Even though it doesn't show up much on the charcoal, I'm still going to do it because then it helps get the actual edge of the card darkened. Because you've got the 3 pieces of paper, the cardstock, and then the 2 pieces of scrapbook paper. I think this is actual music paper. Scrapbook paper on the back. So when you put the vintage photo on with it, it really kind of richens the color. So I'm going to do that too. Just switch daubers if you didn't notice. I guess it's off to the side here. So then I just decide which way I want it, the music facing. I think this would be upright. So I'm going to do it this way. Actually, I got to look at how my leaf is. If I do it that way, my leaf's going to cover all the music. So I will change my mind and do it this way for the leaf. And so that means I want to put my lace over here. So I'm going to use the Beacon 3-in-1 glue. And I'm just going to take a sip of my tea. I'm just fighting a bit of an upper respiratory infection, I think, from just all the humidity we've had, and then we were running the air conditioner because it was really hot. And then I'll wake up in the middle of the night with a sore throat. So I put the glue just on the very edge. I've already got this cut to length because I wanted to make the video, you know, not so long. And then it just needs to stick over 1/8 of an inch. So before it sets up, I just double check it, because if you're trading the ATC cards, they can be pretty picky about the width, because most people want to have them fit in their artist trading card page protector things. Yeah, so that's 2.5. And then just so that it kind of goes with the rounded corners over here, I'm just going to kind of clip a tiny bit off of each corner. And then I'll trim that little bit that's hanging down. And so this edge, you see, is still up. So I'm going to take this piece and put it in underneath. But before I put it in underneath, I'm just going to ink the pinked edge. Ink the pinked edge. And I'm just going to use the lighter one, the vintage photo, for that. This is already kind of beige and white. So when I grunge it a little bit. I think it's a good length. I'm just going to put it this way. I'm still covering up a lot of the music, aren't I? Yeah, this will be just a little bit long, so I'm going to shorten that just a touch and then re-ink that edge. It's hard to cut it after. And so what I'm going to do there is I'm going to ink the back, or sorry, not ink, but glue the back of the strip. And this is fabric. This is upholstery fabric from the upholstery samples that I got. There's a whole series of videos on different ways that I've used them. And when I've used them, I've created scraps, of course. So now I'm using up the scraps too. Very small pieces go in the garbage, and that's it. So I'm just lifting that up and putting that in. I just want sort of it peeking out. And then this is still, you know, liftable. I like that, having something loose. This is pretty good glue, so I don't think it's going to be something that you'll be able to rip it off. And then the leaf, I want to make sure that I've got it right side up. It does have like an embossing to it. And when I've glued these other ones down, they lose a bit of that, but you still can see like the texture of the veins of the leaf that have been embossed in. So I'm going to use the same glue, because these are like a polyester, non-woven kind of fabric. So I think that this will be the best. Tacky glue might work, but I often use just the tacky glue when I'm using fabric. But I thought I would do this for these. I've already kind of got a bunch of this stuff on my fingernails anyway, so I might as well use it. It kind of ruins your nail polish because it's acetone based. And then I want this right on the edge, and it's pretty much the full height of the card. If you bring this down to where it's almost to the edge, it's just about up to the rounded corner, so there's not too much messing with the position of it. I just like to get it close to the edge, and then I'll ink the edge really dark so you don't notice any gaps where it might not be perfectly meeting the edge. I don't really want to go over the edge and then have to trim it. So I would rather just leave it a sliver showing and ink it. And I just give that a little rub down, not too much, because I don't want to lose all of the texture. Like you can feel the raised texture of the veining. And it's okay that it overlaps the fabric. It didn't on this one, but it's okay that it does on this one. And then, like I say, I'll take the ground espresso, the really dark antiquing, and just give that a good coating, and it makes those little spots that show just blend in. And the other thing with inking is it makes my fingernails dark too. You can see from what I did last night, the inking. Anyway, doesn't matter. And then I did a little cluster in this bottom corner and a little cluster in this the top corner. So in the bottom corner, I used a little piece of scrapbook paper, and that just needs a little more ink. I've already inked most of these pieces just so that it would go quicker. I do prefer the inked edges on something like this, especially on an autumn piece. It needs to look just a little bit grungy. And I'll put that just sort of up a little bit from the base of the leaf. And then I had a little piece of burlap ribbon that I cut on an angle with my pinking shears. I was trying to pick things out of my little fabric and ribbon scrap bin instead of cutting new pieces. So I was kind of using what I have. And then for these ones, I've cut little gold lace roses out of some gold lace that I have. I think you've seen me use it before. There's a half a piece of it. I cut it in half lengthways, but it's got the little scallops and then roses. So I had some scraps of that in the bin, so I cut some little roses out just to give it a little bling, a little touch of gold for fall. And I'll put a little bit of this down and then just set that in it. And then up in the upper corner, I had this glitter, I guess it's just glitter ribbon. And so I cut little snippets of it with the pinking shears, and I'll put that up with the lace and the fabric. Usually when I do clusters, I do 3 things, but because I've already got 2 other elements that this is going to be on top of, I'm just doing 2 more things. Now I was thinking I could go this way with it to make it different and fill in this space a little bit. I know I'm covering my music again, and then in this one, I had picked out, instead of this beige button, I had picked out this little burnt red, I guess you would say, which will relate nicely to the color in the leaves. So I'm putting that over top of the coppery glitter ribbon. And that'll just take a little bit to dry, but that's the sister to that one. I think I'm happy with that. Maybe a little more vintage photo up here. Like I say, I don't want to disturb it too much. And then I think I can go ahead and give this just a little bit. It's dry enough now. And that just grunges it up just a bit. I don't want to lose the cream color of the lace. I'm not sure. The other ones I'm going to do, I have a little more, something more 3D down in this corner, but I think I'm going to leave these for now. That's how it usually goes. Is the first one I do is simpler, maybe, and then I get more complex as I make them. That's how I usually work. So there's that one, and then the next one I did, I think, was one of these purple ones. I think it was this one that I actually did next. So this one, I had one of my photocopied backgrounds with the lace over top of scrapbook paper. Now this was actually purple scrapbook paper, but this one came out more of a charcoal color. I think my ink was running out. This one is a bit more purpley. It still has some spots in it that aren't great. So I'm not sure what was happening that day, if printer just wasn't working very well, but I'm going to use it anyway. And so I've got the same sort of thing, the lace, and in this case I've got the edge that I cut off of a tea towel with purple design on it, like a jacquard. And I just left, on this one I had a lot of strings, and I left the strings on, which I think adds interest too. This is a different piece, it doesn't have quite as many strings. I suppose I could maybe make some. Just rough it up a little bit. I think that looks better than just a cut edge. Oh yeah, that looks a lot better. And then these little strings, I can throw them out. My string pot is almost completely full, so I don't need to keep adding to it. I'll show you what I mean there. Sometimes you add a few strings or threads underneath a cluster. And so I've got this glass jar full of assorted colors of bits of string, mostly from where I've torn fabric. This was all from the sheets with the blue roses. It came out blue and green string. So I have that, and then this is the container of fabric scraps that I was pulling from. So it's all just the little leftover bits when I make something out of fabric or ribbon. So there's the burlap ribbon. Yeah, so that's what I pull from, and that's just a box that I bought peaches in. I try to keep all the clear plastic ones and at least use them for a while. Okay, so this one I do want the purple to show a little bit. So I think I'm going to put that there. And I would put that on the bottom if I might do. I also covered the back of this with a little piece of Tim Hortons cup. The band that they give you to stop you from burning your fingers. It is the middle of the night, sorry, I can't think of the name of them. And because this was whitish paper and it was letting the Trivial Pursuit design show through, so I didn't really want that. So I covered it up with this, which is a neat little tactile thing. So I'm just not sure that I want to cover up all my purple. That's the only purple I've got. I could do it like this, but then this will be out here all by itself, but that might be okay. I can do it any way I want, can't I? All right, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the lace on the back and have it sticking out so that you can see it from the front. So this lace doesn't really have a good side and a bad side, I don't think. I really want to preserve that purple. So there's my 2.5. I'm just shy of it there. If I can get it scooched over just a bit more, it might be better. A lot of these I don't trade. I just give them out to people on the street when I see them. I put my Thistledew Creations YouTube logo on the back as like a calling card. So for those ones, it doesn't matter that it's 2.5 wide. It's more for when I want to trade them with other artists, because they have, the only rule really that they have about them is that it's supposed to be this size, 2.5 by 3.5. Other than that, it can be any kind of art that you want. Anything that you do. I even received one that was all fabric. It had you could tell it had like cardstock inside of it, but it was like a little quilt, basically. So this is extending my purple, which is nice. I like the idea of the purple with the orange. Now that was a pinked edge, but I'm going to cut it off straight anyway on both ends. Oh, that end doesn't really need it. Okay. Then I'll do my leaf. And if I want to do it right side up, I need to do it this way, which is fine. It kind of will match up with that one better anyway. So I will glue the back side here. Try to talk quiet too, because I don't want to wake Brian up. I just didn't think I was going to be able to get back to sleep, and this was on my mind, so I thought, well, let's do it and get it off my mind. Then I could scroll Facebook till I fall back asleep just in time to wake up. I woke up at about 3 a.m. and posted my newest video on a few Facebook pages. And then I couldn't really get back to sleep. I shouldn't really do that in the middle of the night like that. I should wait till morning. I can usually get them done while I'm having my coffee. We're going to have a busy morning, so I might not get a chance to do it, so I wanted to get it done. I'm using the dark antiquing again for these edges. I'm just going to fold that back to do this one. Don't want to muddy it up too much because it's, like I said, it's the only purple I've got. And then I'll use the vintage photo on the lace. And I think I'm just going to use the vintage photo on the back. I did ink the cardboard with the ground espresso. Okay, and then my little clusters on this one was more of the glitter with a little button. I think because this piece of fabric is so thick, I'm just going to go along beside it. Actually, I'll go over here beside it, because I don't want to cover up all that purple. And then I'm just going to put my little button. And then down in the bottom corner, I had a little piece of a chenille bedspread in a magenta, and a little piece of, I got this in a swap yesterday. It's a jelly print that a lady sent me, that I was sending her one of her wishes off of the Facebook page. Buy Nothing Scrapbooking Canada, I think, was the Facebook group. And I was sending her some wallpaper samples that she had asked for, and she insisted on sending me something back, so we ended up doing a little swap. And she sent me maybe 6 or 8 jelly print pages, and this was one of them. So I thought that touch of purple would be good here again. It's a little bit more bluey, but I like blue, so that doesn't bother me. I think blue and orange are great complementary colors anyway. So I'm taking that up vertically, and then the chenille across horizontal, and it's got like a pink background, and then the magenta. It's like a design in the chenille bedspread. I just had a piece of it. I don't have the full bedspread. I just had like a scrap of it. I must have got it at a yard sale or something. Probably intended to make pillows out of it or something at the time. but it ends up being cut up into little pieces and used in a lot of projects instead. And then I have this little flocked rose in magenta that used to be an earring, a stud earring. I had a bunch of them. I bought 12 cards with 12 earrings on each card for $6 US. So they were very inexpensive earrings. But I sold earrings, I sell earrings. But I just found that these didn't sell, even at Valentine's, which is what I got them for. They just didn't sell. I thought they were adorable, but nobody seemed to want them. So I've gone and taken a bunch of them off of the posts, cut the posts off, and I'll use them as embellishments. And they're very three-dimensional. So that's that one done. And I'm quite pleased with that too. A little bit different than the other one. I don't like them to be identical. I want the person that's getting the card to know it's a one of a kind, basically. And then the next one I did was this one. So this is a similar idea to the one we just did in a lot of ways, but I used different strips down the side here. And this one I had the gold rose again. So I don't know, I may go back and add something else on top of the rose or beside the rose, but it's already got 3 elements, so it doesn't really need it. I was just thinking because I've got something so three-dimensional on these other ones, but so there's all our components again. Now, where's my lace? I can steal lace from another one. No, I don't want to do that. I know I had a piece of lace cut. It's a bit of a puzzler. I can use different lace on this one. And I might do that same thing where I do it from the back side just to make it a little different. This one's got purple on the back. And this was a square design that I photocopied. I had a small tablecloth made out of this crocheted fabric. So I will cut that to length. This one is a little darker lace, but that's all right. It's all good. And that now is small enough to go in my scrap bin instead of in my carousel with yardage. And actually, I think I'm going to put it along this edge to cover up this that's sort of crooked. That bugs me just a tiny bit. Been keeping my ruler right handy because I've been doing a lot of these, making sure that they don't get too wide. And then this fabric that I'm using is some sari silk that a lady sent me because of one of my wishes on Facebook, and she had cut it out of, I believe, a tiered skirt. She sent me a picture of it and asked me which color, because it was, each tier was a different color. So what I've done is I've cut a strip off and left the orange with the purple. So this is the piece that she sent. So I cut it so it's not so wide and left, this is where the 2 tiers were joined together. So I've got the layers of the purple and the orange. So remember that kind of detail if you are taking apart a garment, that you don't have to necessarily take every little piece off. If the colors go together, keep them, and you might be able to use them like this. So I'm going to put this here. It's covering up a lot of my lace, but I'm not worried about that because it's such a nice, actually I might flip this one in underneath. This one I didn't. I put it on top and you can't really see my lace. Well, I did the lace from underneath on that one. So I think I'm going to stick it underneath that and have it poking out like that. I think it'd be easier to glue on the card than on the fabric because it's very, very thin. It's like, it is silky, but it's very thin. I think she said it was from India. So that looks good. And now my leaf might be a little bit overlapping, but I don't mind that at all. In fact, I could probably still tuck it under if I wanted to, but I think I might tuck it under because I want to see that purple. Okay. Decide which side to glue here. Just clean the tip of my glue a bit here. It's getting all clumpy. And I want to get to the tips so that it gets glued down real well. That in place, and I'm going to tuck it under. I'm going to let that dry before I ink that. So again, I've got my little piece of purple paper. You're not seeing much of the purple background at all, but I do want to bring out the purple that's in that fabric too. So it looks like the jelly printing, looks like she was using Transat, so something from a travel document. And that's a good way, when you're doing the all over paint like that, it's a good way to use papers that might normally be recycled or trashed. Because you don't really see, especially if you're gluing them down, you don't see what's on the back. And even on the front, if it had stuff on the front, because you're covering it so much, you don't really see it. And then this, put off this way, tucked under, and then the little, what did I have? I had the gold, with the button up top. Little gold rose with a little bit of netting around it. I'll just tap that down with my silicone face mask applicator. And then this guy, I think I'm going to tuck him in underneath there. So why don't I just do this? There's already some glue on the tip there. I'll just spread it a bit and then set that in. And add my little button right in the corner. And then this lid needs to go on because it's starting to volcano on me. I don't know if that means it needs to be burped or what. And that button has a curved side, so I'm putting the curved side up. And then that's that one done. Not as recognizable as a leaf because I've got a lot of it covered, but I'm happy with that. The two sisters. And then the last one's probably my favorite, even though it's not purple. And it's got the mossy green edges on the leaves. So I did a series of 4 of these because I had 2 of these leaves and I had 4 of the map background. So this is a local to my area map. It's just beautiful greens and rusts and blues. And then the background I chose like a homestead stripe, ticking stripe. So I will do this one. I used the wider lace and cut it in half because I was going to cover it up with the green anyway. And some of these green pieces I didn't make the full length of it, so this one's the full length. I just have to decide what I'm going to do, whether I just leave it or whether I'm going to do something to cover that. I think I want this lace over here. So I started putting the lace on, like I said, as a problem-solving thing because of the width, but I really like the idea of it. The way that it looks, the way that it feels, having it sticking out. It's like one of those happy accident things. And then again, this is a strip of the upholstery fabric. You can see the paper still on the back. I started taking all the paper off and then I realized it just wasn't going to cooperate very well, so I gave it up and just decided to find ways to use it with the paper on. Because I'm doing it on paper crafts anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm usually gluing it down. And now, see, I didn't ink the edges, and it does look good with the inked edges, doesn't it? Shoot. I'm going to try to correct my mistake there because I really do want them inked. And I did them with the darker one. Getting glue all over my fingers, but it's worth it. I'm just going to give it a little more glue. Some of it soaks into the fabric too, so I'm going to put it back in the same place. Actually, my cluster can cover this corner. So the cluster, I wanted to tell you about the cluster pieces on this one because these 2 coppery bits are actually from a chocolate bar wrapper. I got these at the Almost Perfect food outlet store, so I don't know where you can buy them normally. They're from Ottawa. La Siembra Cooperative in Ottawa, Camino.ca is the website, made in Switzerland. But they have this beautiful metallic paper and also then this background of trees with little metallic copper speckles on them. So I just cut these bits out and put them in my blingy paper drawer. and kept them in the back of my mind for the perfect project, and I thought this was it. So I've used the metallic one up in the top corner here, and you can see I've even left a little bit of the white on there. I'm going to ink it so it's not so white. And so I'll glue that down horizontally across the top. That takes care of the fact that that green doesn't go all the way to the top. This one I just overlaid it, but that's all right. And then I actually did add a little piece of the gold lace edging on the other one, so I'm going to do it on this one too. And I think I'm going to do, I might end up covering that white with it. See, so it really didn't matter that it was left on. It's just a little snippet, something I probably would have thrown away, but here I've been able to use it. So now it'll go in the bin, those little pieces. And then I had a button. Where's my button? And this time I just chose an off-white button. I don't have that many opportunities to use the plainer buttons. I'm always looking for a colored one, but this time it works. So I thought I would use it. And I better get my leaf down. Hold on to it just so it doesn't move around. And it still is anyway. I've always liked these leaves, and I've had some for years, and I never really used them for anything. Always was going to make a wreath or decorate with them somehow, and I never really have used them. Like I say, these are ones I got in a swap, but I'll have to dig out the other ones that I have. I think I had them in my Etsy shop, actually. And of course, nobody bought them because you can get them at the dollar store. So I'm going to get them out of my Etsy shop and use them. I always list stuff like that because just because we can get it at the dollar store here, that doesn't mean that someone in another country can get them. And they're easy to ship, so that's something I would ship just about anywhere in the world because it's so small and lightweight. So some of the strangest things can be listed on Etsy and sold. Now this is the other little piece of that paper from the chocolate bar wrapper. And then I had the burlap again. I'm doing this, oh, I guess it's similar to what I did over there. Going up. And then I had, for these ones, I had a little rhinestone heart, and this one was a mossy green one. This one, what color did I get for this one? It's a mossy green one as well. Some of them were more yellowy or gray. I'm going to put that on here instead of on the heart. It's just, I find it easier to put them down that way. And let all that dry. Now I didn't ink before I made the card, so I'll have to be careful inking. I think it's just about time for some new sponges on my daubers. Hold that down so it doesn't fall off when I'm inking. It's not quite set yet. And then I'm going to switch to my vintage photo for this edge because I don't want it as grungy. On the back, I'll do vintage photo, I think. Just so it's antique-y looking, but not too grungy. And I'd originally kind of thought that I would use the stripe as the front of the card. When I was making the card bases, I didn't know what I was going to put on them yet. But when I started to make them as trading cards, I wanted a place to write on the back. So I thought the lines would be more suitable for writing on, and I used the map as the front. So I'm happy with that one. Its sister is pretty close to the same. There is the difference here that you can't see very much, but yeah, they're not identical because of the backgrounds too, because the backgrounds are part of the same map. So yeah, happy with those ones as well. So thank you for joining me in the middle of the night for a little crafting session. I don't usually do this, but maybe I will start. If I'm having trouble sleeping, I'll just get up and craft. Makes sense to me. So thanks for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Most of all, have a great day when you get up and around to it. Thanks for watching.